Admiral Kethvorak stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the stars bend around him. The jump to hyperspace always made his scales itch, but today, he did not mind. Today was a good day. Today, the Velkrath Dominion would add another world to its collection. Behind his ship, the Eternal Conquest, floated 9,499 other warships. Each one was a mountain of metal and weapons. Each one carried thousands of soldiers, ready to fight and die for the Dominion. Together, they formed the largest invasion fleet in Dominion history. Their target was a small blue planet called Earth. Kethvorak had studied the reports about Earth many times. The planet was home to a young species called humans. They had only recently discovered nuclear power. Their space technology was primitive. They had sent a few small machines to their moon and to nearby planets, but they had never traveled beyond their own star system. The Dominion classified Earth as a pre-ascendant world. This meant the humans were not yet advanced enough to be a real threat. The standard protocol for conquering such worlds called for 200 ships. Kethvorak had brought 9,500 because he believed in using overwhelming force. Also, Earth was rich in resources that the Dominion needed. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Kethvorak looked at the main view screen and saw the distant sun, small and yellow. Somewhere ahead, hidden among the planets, was Earth. "Begin the approach," he ordered. Standard invasion formation. His crew moved quickly and quietly. They had done this many times before. The Velkrath Dominion had conquered 347 worlds across 3 galactic arms. They had never lost a war. They had never retreated from battle. They were the masters of the galaxy, and everyone knew it. As the fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, Kethvorak ordered the communication officer to send the standard message. Every world received the same words before conquest. "Attention, people of Earth. This is Admiral Kethvorak of the Velkrath Dominion. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You will surrender immediately. You will submit to Dominion rule. Any resistance will result in your complete destruction. You have 1 planetary rotation to respond." The message was sent on all frequencies. Every radio, every television, every communication device on Earth would receive it. Kethvorak had seen this moment many times. Sometimes the primitive species panicked. Sometimes they fought among themselves. Sometimes they tried to run. It did not matter. The result was always the same. He expected the humans to react with fear. He expected their governments to fall apart. He expected perhaps a few desperate attacks with their primitive nuclear weapons. What he got was silence. For 12 hours, the humans said nothing. Kethvorak found this strange but not worrying. Perhaps they were still trying to understand what was happening. Perhaps their leaders were arguing about what to do. Then, finally, a response came. It was sent from something called the United Nations Security Council. The message was short. "We decline your offer. You have 72 hours to leave our system. This is your only warning." Kethvorak stared at the message for a long moment. Then he laughed. His bridge crew laughed with him. The idea that these primitive creatures would threaten the Dominion was the funniest thing he had heard in years. "They have spirit," he said. "I almost admire them. It will not save them, but I admire them." He ordered the fleet to continue its approach. Soon they would be in orbit around Earth. Soon the invasion would begin. Soon another world would belong to the Dominion. But as the fleet moved closer, strange things began to happen. Velnash, the science officer, was the first to notice. She approached Kethvorak with a worried look on her face. "Admiral, I am detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface." "What kind of activity?" "Large structures are rising from the oceans. They appear to be weapons platforms." Kethvorak frowned. Velnash checked her instruments again. Her hands were shaking. "Admiral, they are not primitive. They are very advanced. More advanced than anything we have seen on a pre-ascendant world." Before Kethvorak could respond, Another officer spoke up. "Admiral, we are detecting energy signatures from the planet's moon. Large energy signatures. They look like—" He did not finish his sentence. He did not need to. The view screen showed it clearly. The dark side of Earth's moon was lighting up. Massive structures were activating. Weapons were powering up. "This is impossible," Velnash whispered. "The humans are supposed to be primitive. They are supposed to be centuries away from this kind of technology." Kethvorak said nothing. He was staring at the view screen, watching as more and more weapons came online. Satellites that had appeared dead were now active. Asteroids that had seemed natural were opening up to reveal hidden missile batteries. The entire solar system was waking up around them. "Admiral," the communication officer said, "we are receiving another message from Earth. Play it." A human voice filled the bridge. It was calm and steady. "Admiral Kethvorak, we know who you are. We know what you have done to other worlds. We have been watching your dominion for a very long time. We have been preparing for this moment for decades. You thought you were coming to conquer a primitive planet. You were wrong. You have walked into a trap. Leave now, and we will let you go. Stay, and you will die. All of you. This is not a threat. This is a fact." The message ended. The bridge was silent. Kethvorak looked at his officers. He saw fear in their eyes. He understood why. Everything they knew about Earth was wrong. The humans were not primitive. They had been hiding. They had been waiting. And now the Dominion fleet was deep inside their territory, surrounded by weapons they did not understand. For a moment, just a moment, Kethvorak thought about retreating. It would be the smart thing to do. He could pull back, gather more information, and return with a larger force. But the Velkrath Dominion did not retreat. They had never retreated. To retreat would be to show weakness, and the Dominion was never weak. "All ships," Kethvorak ordered. "Prepare for battle. We will show these humans what happens to those who defy the Dominion." The fleet moved forward. Ahead of them, Earth waited in silence. Its weapons were ready. Its people were ready. The humans had been preparing for this day for a very long time, and they were not afraid. The first wave of Dominion ships entered Earth's orbital defense zone at exactly 0600 hours Earth time. 2,000 warships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Kethvorak watched from his flagship as his forces approached the blue planet. He expected resistance. He expected the humans to fight. He did not expect what happened next. In 4.7 seconds, 1,847 of his ships disappeared. They did not explode slowly. They did not break apart. They simply vanished in flashes of light so bright that the view screen automatically darkened to protect the crew's eyes. Kethvorak grabbed the edge of his command chair to keep from falling. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Officers shouted at each other in panic. The tactical display showed a sea of red where green lights had been moments before. "What happened?" Kethvorak roared. "What hit us?" Velnash's voice was shaking. "Railgun projectiles, Admiral. Tungsten rods fired at near light speed. They came from the asteroid belt. We never saw them coming. Our shields did nothing." Before Kethvorak could respond, another wave of destruction hit the fleet. This time, it came from the moon. Beams of focused energy cut through Dominion ships like a hot knife through soft meat. Destroyers, cruisers, even battleships, they all died the same way. "Return fire!" Kethvorak screamed. "Target those weapons!" His remaining ships tried to fight back. They fired missiles and plasma cannons at the moon, at the asteroid belt, at everything they could see. But the human weapons were too well hidden, too well protected. For every platform the Dominion destroyed, 10 more seemed to take its place. Then the orbital defense stations activated. For years, human governments had told the public that most of their satellites were broken. Old space stations were called abandoned. Debris fields were considered natural. It was all a lie. Every piece of junk in Earth's orbit was actually a weapons platform, waiting for this moment. They opened fire all at once. Missiles streaked toward the Dominion fleet from every direction. Energy beams crisscrossed the void. Kinetic projectiles punched through hulls like paper. The Dominion ships, designed to fight enemies in front of them, could not handle attacks from all sides at once. In the first hour of battle, Kethvorak lost 3,200 ships. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. "This cannot be real." But it was real. And it was about to get worse. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in hangars hidden under deserts and mountains and ice, humanity's secret fleet came to life. For 50 years, the world's governments had worked together in secret. They called it Project Prometheus. Every failed rocket launch, every canceled military program, every wasted budget, all of it had gone into building ships. Not primitive ships, not chemical rockets with simple weapons. Real warships, built with technology that should not have existed on Earth. 20 years ago, a Dominion scout vessel had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. The humans had found it. They had studied it. They had learned its secrets. And they had used that knowledge to build weapons that could fight the Dominion on equal terms. 400 human warships launched from hidden bases around the world. They were smaller than Dominion vessels, but they were fast and deadly. Each one was crewed by volunteers who had trained for this day their entire lives. They knew they might not come back. They did not care. Captain Sarah Chen commanded the lead ship, the UES Phoenix. She was 34 years old. She had wanted to be an astronaut since she was a child. Instead, she had become a warrior. "All ships," she said over the fleet channel, "engage at will. Make them pay for every kilometer of our space." The human ships hit the Dominion fleet like wolves attacking a herd of confused animals. They moved in groups of 3 or 4, striking quickly and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. They used asteroids for cover. They hid in the shadows of planets. They fought with a ferocity that the Velkrath had never seen. One human pilot, when his weapons ran out, flew his ship directly into a Dominion cruiser. The explosion destroyed both vessels. Another pilot, her ship badly damaged, aimed for the engine section of a Dominion battleship and detonated her own reactor. She took 3 enemy ships with her. The Velkrath did not understand. They could not understand. In their culture, self-sacrifice was foolish. Life was precious. No sane creature would choose certain death. But humans were not like other species. When their homes were threatened, when their families were in danger, they became something else entirely. They became weapons that could not be stopped because they did not fear death. Admiral Kethvorak watched his fleet die around him. The numbers on his tactical display fell with terrible speed. 4,000 ships remaining. 3,500. 3,000. "We need to retreat," his first officer said. "Admiral, we must withdraw. We cannot win this battle." Kethvorak wanted to argue. The Dominion did not retreat. The Dominion was never defeated. But the evidence was floating all around him: thousands of destroyed ships, hundreds of thousands of dead soldiers, all killed by a species that was supposed to be primitive. "Signal the fleet," he said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "We are withdrawing. All ships, maximum speed, head for the system's edge. We will jump to hyperspace as soon as we are clear." The surviving Dominion ships turned and ran. They pushed their engines to the limit, desperate to escape the killing zone. Behind them, the human fleet followed, still firing, still hunting. Captain Chen watched the enemy flee on her view screen. She smiled, but there was no joy in it. Too many of her friends had died today. Too many good people had sacrificed themselves. "Should we let them go?" her first officer asked. Chen shook her head. "No. They don't get to leave that easily. They came to our home. They threatened our people. Now they pay the price." She opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. All ships, this is Phoenix. The enemy is running. Let's show them that in our system, there is no escape. Hunt them down. The chase began. The Dominion fleet ran for the edge of the solar system, hoping to reach the safety of hyperspace. But they did not know what waited for them in the darkness between planets. The humans had been preparing for 50 years. They had not just defended Earth, they had turned the entire solar system into a trap, and the trap was about to close. Admiral Kethvorak thought escape would be simple. His remaining ships were fast. The edge of the solar system was not far. Once they reached open space, they could jump to hyperspace and leave this nightmare behind. He was wrong. The Dominion fleet raced past Mars, their engines burning at maximum power. They had lost more than half their ships, but over 4,000 remained. It was still a powerful force. It was still enough to rebuild, to return, to take revenge on the humans who had humiliated them. Then, the gravity disruptors activated. Kethvorak felt his ship shudder. The hyperspace drive began to spark and smoke. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. "What is happening?" he demanded. Velnash checked her instruments with trembling hands. "We cannot jump, Admiral. Something is blocking our hyperspace drives." There are devices throughout the outer solar system. They are creating gravity distortions that make hyperspace travel impossible. Destroy them. We cannot locate them, Admiral. They are too small. There are too many. They are hidden everywhere. Kethvorak stared at the view screen in disbelief. The humans had thought of everything. They had not just prepared to fight the Dominion, they had prepared to trap them, to cage them, to make sure that no enemy who entered their system would ever leave. "Sir," the tactical officer shouted. "Enemy contacts emerging from behind the fourth planet." Kethvorak looked at the display. Jupiter, the humans called it. A massive gas giant with dozens of moons. And from behind those moons, human ships were appearing. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands. This was Earth's second fleet. These were the reserves. Fresh ships, full weapons, rested crews. They had been waiting in the shadow of Jupiter, hidden by its massive size and radiation, ready to cut off any escape. Admiral Chen Wei-lin commanded this fleet from his flagship, the UES Fenrir. He was 62 years old, a veteran of conflicts that the public had never known about. He had trained for this moment his entire adult life. He opened a channel that he knew the Dominion would hear. "Attention, Velkroth forces. This is Admiral Chen Wei-lin of the United Earth Navy. You came to our home. You threatened our children. You expected us to kneel before you like so many others have done." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We do not kneel. We never have. And you are about to learn why humanity has never been conquered, not by nature, not by disease, not by each other, and certainly not by you." The second fleet attacked. Human ships worked together in groups they called wolf packs. Each pack had 5 to 8 vessels that moved as one, communicating through encrypted channels that the Dominion could not break. They would find a target, surround it, destroy it, and then vanish into the void before the enemy could respond. The Dominion fleet tried to stay together. They formed defensive circles, protecting their larger ships with smaller ones. It did not help. The humans knew how to break formations. They knew how to create chaos. They had been studying Dominion tactics for decades, and they had developed counters for everything. The asteroid belt became a killing field. Human ships used the rocks for cover, hiding behind them, and then striking without warning. Dominion vessels would be flying in what seemed like empty space, and suddenly missiles would appear from a dozen directions at once. Saturn's rings were even worse. The humans had hidden mines among the ice and rock. Dominion ships flew into the rings hoping for cover, and found only death. The explosions lit up the rings like a deadly fireworks display. And everywhere, the hunter-killer drones waited. These were small, unmanned weapons that the humans had placed throughout the outer solar system 30 years ago. They had floated in the cold darkness, their systems in sleep mode, invisible to all sensors. Now, They woke up. Now they began to hunt. The drones were not smart, but they did not need to be. They had one job: find Dominion ships and destroy them. They did their job very well. Keth Vorak watched his fleet shrink. 3,000 ships. 2,000. 500. 2,000. Every hour brought more death. Every minute brought more destruction. His officers came to him with plans for escape. Some suggested surrendering. Others suggested negotiating. One young officer even suggested they find a planet in this system and hide, hoping the humans would eventually stop hunting them. Keth Vorak rejected all of these ideas. The Dominion did not surrender. The Dominion did not negotiate with primitive species. The Dominion did not hide. But what could they do? They could not jump to hyperspace. They could not outrun the human ships. They could not fight their way through every battle. Cost them more ships than they destroyed. On the third day of the hunt, Keth Vorak made a decision. If he was going to die, he would die fighting. He gathered his remaining ships, just over 1,000 now, and ordered them to turn around. They would make one final charge at Earth. They would break through whatever defenses remained. They would destroy as much as they could before they fell. It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. But the Velkrath would rather die in battle than be hunted like animals. The Dominion fleet turned and accelerated toward Earth. The human wolf packs followed, picking off ships from the edges of the formation. By the time they reached Mars orbit, only 400 Dominion vessels remained. Admiral Chen Wei-lin watched them come. He understood what they were doing. He almost respected it. They want to die with honor, he said to his first officer. They want to take some of us with them. Should we let them reach Earth? Chen shook his head. No. This ends here. He gave the order, and every human ship in the system converged on the Dominion fleet. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The humans attacked from all sides, overwhelming the remaining Dominion ships with sheer numbers and firepower. Admiral Keth Vorak died when 3 human missiles struck his bridge at the same time. He never saw the explosions. He never felt the pain. One moment he was giving orders, and the next moment, he was gone. In the end, only 17 Dominion ships survived. They were scattered, damaged, their crews dead or dying. They drifted in space near Mars, unable to fight, unable to run, waiting for the humans to finish them. But the killing stopped. The human ships pulled back. They formed a ring around the survivors, weapons aimed and ready, but they did not fire. The hunt was over. Now came the message. Commander Velthara had never expected to survive. She was young, only 30 cycles old by Dominion counting. She had joined the Navy to see the galaxy, to serve the Empire, to bring glory to her people. Her first real mission was supposed to be simple: help conquer a primitive world called Earth. Now she stood on the bridge of a broken ship, surrounded by the wreckage of the greatest fleet the Dominion had ever built. Her captain was dead. Her first officer was dead. Most of her crew was dead. The ship's engines were destroyed. Life support was failing. They had maybe 2 days of oxygen left. And around her, human warships waited in a silent ring, their weapons pointed at the 17 surviving Dominion vessels. Velthara expected death. She had accepted it. The humans had every right to destroy them after what the Dominion had tried to do. She closed her eyes and waited for the final blow. It never came. Instead, a small human ship separated from the ring and approached her vessel. It was unarmed. She could see that clearly, on the sensors that still worked. It flew slowly, carefully, like a person approaching a wounded animal. Then a voice came through the communication system. It spoke in perfect Velkroth language, with an accent she had never heard before. Dominion vessel. This is Admiral Chen Wei-lin of the United Earth Navy. Please respond. End quote. Velthara looked at her surviving officers. They stared back at her with exhausted, frightened eyes. She was the highest-ranking officer left. The decision was hers. She pressed the communication button. "This is Commander Velthara of the Dominion vessel Swift Strike. I am listening. Commander Velthara, your fleet has been destroyed. Your weapons are empty. Your ships cannot move or jump to hyperspace. We could kill all of you in less than 1 minute." Velthara closed her eyes again. "I know. Do what you must." There was a pause. Then the human admiral said something she did not expect. "We are not going to kill you." Her eyes opened. "What?" "We are going to let you go." Velthara could not believe what she was hearing. In the history of the Dominion, no enemy had ever shown mercy. The Dominion itself never showed mercy. When you defeated an enemy, you destroyed them completely. That was how war worked. That was how it had always worked. "I do not understand," she said. "Then let me explain." The admiral's voice was calm and patient. "We did not want this war. We never wanted to fight anyone. All we wanted was to be left alone, to develop at our own pace, to reach for the stars in our own time. You came to take that from us. You came to conquer our world and enslave our people. We were defending ourselves. We are still defending ourselves. But we are not murderers. We do not kill enemies who cannot fight back. That is not who we are." Velthara felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was shame. Deep, burning shame for what her people had done, for what they had tried to do to this species. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "We want you to go home. We want you to tell your leaders what happened here. We want you to show them the recordings of this battle every moment, every destroyed ship, every dead soldier. We want them to understand what they brought upon themselves." The admiral paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was harder. "And we want you to deliver our terms." A data file appeared on Velthara's console. She opened it and read the human demands. Her hands trembled as she went through each point. First, Earth and the Sol system were human territory forever. No Dominion ship was ever to enter without permission. Second, any Dominion vessel that violated this rule would be destroyed without warning. There would be no negotiations, no second chances. Third, the Dominion would release all enslaved species in their territory within 1 standard galactic year. The third demand made Velthara stop breathing. The Dominion held hundreds of species in slavery. Releasing them would destroy the Empire's economy. It would end their way of life. "These terms are extreme," she said. "So was sending 9,500 ships to conquer a peaceful world," the admiral replied. "You started this war. We are ending it. Our way. And if the Dominion refuses?" There was silence for a long moment. Then a new voice came through the communication channel. It was a woman's voice, strong and clear. "Commander Velthara, my name is President Maria Santos of the United Earth Government. I want you to listen very carefully to what I am about to say." Velthara listened. "For 50 years, we have been building ships, weapons, armies. We have turned our entire solar system into a fortress. Everything you saw here, the railguns, the energy weapons, the fleets, that is only what we allowed you to see. We have more. Much more. Things we did not need to use today." The president's voice grew even harder. "We never wanted to fight anyone. We built these weapons, hoping we would never use them. But we will use them. If the Dominion comes for us again, if they refuse our terms, if they continue to threaten our people, we will not wait for them to attack. We will come to them. Your empire has conquered 347 worlds. You think you are unstoppable. You thought we were primitive. Look around you, Commander. Look at what is left of your fleet. Ask yourself, if we could do this on our first day of war, what could we do in a year? In 5 years? In 10? And Velthara looked at the tactical display. 17 ships out of 9,500. a loss rate of 99.8%. Against a species the Dominion had considered primitives. "We are giving you a choice," President Santos continued. "Peace or war. Freedom for your slaves, or destruction for your empire. Life or death. The choice is yours. But make no mistake, we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. We will not be destroyed. We are humanity, and we will be free. And well be Slav. And we will be free. And it won. Our well." The communication ended. Velthara sat in silence for a long time. Around her, the human fleet began to move. Ships flew past the survivors, repairing their engines just enough to travel. Technicians in spacesuits attached emergency supplies to their hulls: oxygen, food, water, medical equipment. The humans were not just letting them go. They were helping them survive the journey home. It was the strangest thing Velthara had ever seen. 8 hours later, the gravity disruptors were deactivated. Velthara ordered the surviving ships to begin the jump to hyperspace. As the stars stretched around her, she took one last look at the blue planet called Earth. It hung in space, beautiful and peaceful, surrounded by its deadly rings of weapons and ships. The humans had won. But they had not celebrated. They had not boasted. They had simply shown what they could do and offered a chance for peace. Velthara did not know if the Dominion would accept the terms. She did not know what the future would bring. But she knew one thing for certain: she would never forget what she had seen here, and neither would anyone else. The 17 ships arrived at the Dominion capital world 3 weeks later. They came out of hyperspace slowly, their engines barely working, their hulls covered in scars from battle. When the home fleet saw them, there was confusion. Where was the armada? Where were the other 9,483 ships? Commander Velthara was brought before the High Council within hours of landing. The council chamber was massive, built to show the power and glory of the Dominion. 12 high councilors sat on elevated thrones, looking down at her with cold eyes. "Explain," said High Councilor Keth Marak, the oldest and most powerful of them all. "Where is our fleet? Where is Admiral Keth Vorak? Where are our ships?" Velthara stood alone in the center of the chamber. She was exhausted. She had not slept properly in weeks. But her voice was steady when she spoke. "The fleet is gone. The Admiral is dead. The ships are destroyed. All but 17. The council erupted in shouts of disbelief. Councilors called her a liar. They accused her of treason, of cowardice, of making up stories to hide her own failures. One councilor demanded that she be executed immediately. Velthara waited until they were quiet. Then she said, "I have brought recordings. Watch them. See for yourselves." The recordings played on the chamber's main display. The council watched in growing horror as the story unfolded. They saw the hidden weapons on Earth's moon. They saw the railgun strikes from the asteroid belt. They saw the human ships emerging from hidden bases, fighting with fearless aggression. They saw the hunt through the outer solar system, the wolf packs, the mines, the drones. They saw 9,500 ships die in less than 72 hours. When the recordings ended, the chamber was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The 12 most powerful beings in the Dominion sat frozen on their thrones, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Finally, High Councilor Keth Marak spoke. His voice was quiet and shaken. "This cannot be real. The humans are a pre-ascendant species. They do not have this technology. They cannot have this technology. They hid it from us," Velthara said. "They have been watching us for decades. They knew we were coming. They prepared. Impossible. We monitor all pre-ascendant worlds. We would have seen. You saw what they wanted you to see." Velthara interrupted. It was rude to interrupt a high counselor, but she no longer cared. "They showed us primitive rockets and failing space stations. They showed us governments that argued and fought with each other. It was all a show. Underneath, they were building weapons, training soldiers, preparing for the day we arrived. She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small data chip. They also gave me this. A message for the council. They have terms for peace. The chip played. President Santos appeared on the display, speaking in calm, measured tones. She explained humanity's demands. Sovereignty over the Sol system. The threat of destruction for any Dominion ships that entered without permission. And the release of all enslaved species within 1 galactic year. When the message ended, the council exploded in anger. They dare to give us terms? They dare to threaten us? We will build a new fleet. A bigger fleet. We will crush them. We have conquered 347 worlds. We will not bow to these creatures. The shouting went on for a long time. Velthara stood silently and watched. She had expected this reaction. The Dominion had never lost a war. They did not know how to lose. They did not know how to accept defeat. But eventually, the shouting died down. Eventually, the counselors began to think instead of react. And when they thought about it, really thought about it, they realized the truth. The Dominion could not fight Earth. They had sent their largest fleet, and it had been destroyed in 3 days. Building a new fleet of that size would take 20 years. Training new crews would take even longer. And during that time, what would the humans be doing? They would be building too. They would be preparing. They would be waiting. The humans had said they were giving the Dominion a choice. But really, there was no choice at all. Fight, and face the destruction of everything the Dominion had built, or accept the terms and survive. The council argued for 6 days. In the end, they did not accept humanity's terms. They could not. To free the slaves would destroy the Dominion's economy and power. It was too much to ask. But they also did not attack Earth. They were too afraid. And that fear, that hesitation, was the beginning of the end. Word of the defeat spread through the Dominion. It was supposed to be a secret. But secrets never stay secret for long. Within months, every enslaved species knew what had happened. A primitive world had defeated the masters. The Dominion was not unstoppable. The Dominion could bleed. The rebellions began slowly at first. A few protests, a few riots, a few bold slaves who refused to work and accepted death rather than obedience. But as time passed, the rebellions grew larger and more organized. On the planet Thessar, 1 million slaves rose up against their masters and took control of the capital city. On Vex Prime, workers sabotaged the factories that built Dominion weapons. On a dozen other worlds, the story was the same. The slaves were fighting back, inspired by the news from Earth. The Dominion tried to crush the rebellions. But they were stretched too thin. Their fleet was gone. Their army was weakened. They could not be everywhere at once. Within 5 years, the Velkrath Dominion collapsed. The High Council was overthrown by its own military, and then the military turned on itself. The empire that had ruled for 10,000 years broke apart into 100 smaller nations, all of them fighting each other for scraps of power. And Earth? Earth watched. Earth waited. Earth built. When the first freed species sent ambassadors to the Sol system, they found humanity ready to meet them. The humans did not ask for territory or tribute. They did not demand submission or obedience. They simply offered friendship. We know what it is like to face a stronger enemy, President Santos told the ambassadors. We know what it is like to fight for survival. We will help you rebuild. We will share our technology. We will protect you if you need protection. All we ask in return is that you remember what happened here. Remember what we can do. And remember that we choose peace over war. The freed species remembered. They told the story to their children, and their children told it to their children. It became a legend known across the galaxy. Once, long ago, a mighty empire sent 9,500 ships to conquer a small blue world. Only 17 returned. And that was how humanity introduced itself to the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as a people who wanted only to be left in peace. A people who would not start a war, but who would finish any war brought to them. A people who showed mercy to their enemies and friendship to those in need. Centuries later, when the Galactic Federation was formed, humans were among its founding members. The Federation's headquarters was built in orbit around Earth, a symbol of humanity's central role in galactic civilization. And in the center of that station, in a hall where ambassadors from 1,000 species gathered, there was a monument. It was a simple thing, a pillar of black stone with words carved into its surface. The words were in every language known to the galaxy, but they all said the same thing. We are humanity. We come from Earth. We did not seek war. We did not wish for enemies. We wanted only to live, to grow, to reach for the stars in peace. But when war found us, we were ready. When enemies came, we stood firm, and when the battle ended, we offered mercy and friendship instead of vengeance. This is who we are. This is who we will always be. We are humanity, and we will be free. Beneath the words, there was a list of names. 12,000 names. The pilots and soldiers who had given their lives defending Earth on that first day of war. Visitors would often stop at the monument and read the names. They would touch the cold stone and think about what had happened here. They would think about the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. Power was not just about weapons and ships. It was about will. It was about the willingness to fight for what mattered. It was about standing together when everything seemed lost. The humans had done all of this, and they had done something more. They had won. The end.